Hello and welcome to my kitchen. This is Sandra Nardoni from homeschoolbehaviorproblems.com. I'm going to be talking to you today about the 5 keys for successful homeschooling. If you're interested in reading more articles about our family and our journey, you can go to adoptioncounts.com/blog, and there you'll find lots of interesting tidbits about our journey with homeschooling, our adoption, our family, and just general things that are going on at our house. If you are interested in getting some free resources, other than just articles, we have an audio course and we have a mini course. The audio course is about homeschooling adopted children, and the mini course is about navigating the foster care system. You can find any one of those resources on the sidebar of this website. I'm glad that you joined us today, and today we're going to talk about the 5 keys for successful homeschooling. Now, I'm talking from the perspective of parents who've adopted children from the foster care system or from overseas, or parents who have children who have experienced some sort of trauma, either a traumatic birth or some other trauma early in life that has caused severe behaviors. Many parents don't realize that even though they have biological children, that the severe behaviors they may be seeing sometimes have to do with attachment problems, even though the children that they have came from their own bodies and are in fact their biological children. Oftentimes trauma can cause things with children, especially because if it happens before the age of 3, children can display severe behaviors even if they've grown up in a loving home and have had no severe neglect or abuse. So today we're going to be talking about the 5 keys to successful homeschooling, and I believe all of these apply to any child, regardless of whether or not they have a trauma background, but they're absolutely necessary if you're going to deal with children who do have a trauma history or a history of neglect. Number 5, we'll start with I say the least significant, but they're all very significant. Number 5 is flexibility. Flexibility is very important because not only do you need to have some level of structure with children who have had a trauma background, but flexibility is important because if you don't have flexibility, then you are not able to shift gears when your child is having a need that is out of the ordinary. So you may have 2 or 3 days a week when your child seems to be relatively calm and is able to do his schoolwork. But you might come to the 4th day of the week, and for whatever reason, his trauma is triggered, and he is feeling sad or maybe even angry. And a child who has had trauma often can't express that in a verbal way. And so then we see behaviors that come out. Defiance, talking back, aggression. Sometimes you can see even things like pooping their pants. Lots of different things can happen as a result of sadness or anger from a child who has had trauma. And when those fears begin to build in their minds about whatever is happening in their day, they can really display some very severe behaviors that can be very scary, or at the very least can upset the structure of our day. So if you are a flexible person, if you have taught yourself how to be flexible, you can shift gears and you can be able to say to your child, you know what, let's not do the writing assignment today. Let's do something different. It doesn't mean that you have to shut down your school day and do no academics at all. But it does mean that you need to take a different approach for that day. So flexibility is very important. Number 4 is humility. Often I find that it's difficult for me to admit that I am wrong, that I have tried something that isn't working. Humility is very important when it comes to a child who is experiencing a level of fear because of their trauma background. Humility is something that I suppose we all want to have anyway, but it's especially important when it comes to raising traumatized kids and kids with attachment issues, because a child can recognize very quickly whether or not you are the type of person who's willing to admit when she's wrong. And humility is important not only for the peacefulness of your home, but also for modeling to your children that it's okay to say that you're sorry, it's okay to admit when you're wrong, that it doesn't make you a bad person to admit that you're wrong. All those things are important when it comes to homeschooling adopted children. Number 3 is a willingness to learn. Oftentimes as adults we kind of have a view that we've learned all there is to know. We know more than our child, and we know what we need to do next, and that's that. But a willingness to learn can really make a huge difference in your homeschool. Not only for the way that you are able to impart knowledge and discover knowledge, but also as a way of modeling to your children that learning is exciting. If you have a willingness to learn, then that means more than likely that you enjoy learning and that you're excited about it. And if you are excited about learning, eventually that will rub off on your child. Now, it may take months. You may go through months where you are excited about learning and your child is literally spitting in your face or being very disrespectful. But I would encourage you to keep going. Don't get discouraged. Eventually that child will begin to understand that learning is a good and positive experience, and you will build new paths in his brain where it comes to learning, and he'll understand that learning is something that's exciting and good. Also, have a plan. Number 2 is have a plan. And when I say have a plan, I don't necessarily mean a rigid schedule. I know that many attachment therapists and people in the attachment world say that you need to have a very rigid schedule with children who have had attachment issues, and I don't agree with that. I think that a schedule is a very positive thing, but I think rigidity is something that is absolutely frightening to children who have had attachment problems. They need to know that you can abandon your schedule in favor of their emotional health. And in light of that, I also have to say that they need to know that you have a general plan. And I know that seems like an oxymoron, but having a plan for your day actually helps you to be flexible. And the reason it does is because usually what you do to be successful with a plan is you have a plan A and you have a plan B. I always have a running list of activities in my mind that I can do if my kids start to feel like they're out of control or they're not in the mode where they can do what we would consider very academic work. Having a plan A that you follow until you can't follow it anymore is very, very helpful, but then also having a plan B to back that up is even more helpful. That way, if your child is having a bad day, they've got a memory that was triggered by something or whatever, you can switch gears, and of course that goes back to flexibility. But having a plan A and having a plan B and being able to structure your day loosely in order to help your children know what to expect is very important. But while also juxtapositioning that with not having so rigid of a schedule that your children feel fearful or they feel like they are less important than the schedule. And number 1 that is above all things that you do when you're homeschooling traumatized children is to understand your child. Understanding your child is the number 1 most important thing you can possibly do. And when I talk about understanding my child, I mean you need to know all that you can know about him or her. You need to know what their personality is, what their preferences are with their learning environment, what their learning style is, how they best take in information, all those kinds of things. Study your child as if you are learning how to speak another language. You need to know exactly what it is that your child needs as far as emotionally speaking, and even know as much as you can about their learning style when you're going into homeschooling them. You're not going to know everything, but you can learn a lot just by watching when your child is having a positive experience. What does that look like? How do they act? And then you try to replicate that. It's very, very easy to get into a mode where we believe that we need to teach in a certain way and that our child needs to learn in a certain way. But that is absolutely the biggest downfall of any homeschooler, let alone a homeschooler that is trying to teach children who've had trauma in their lives. So number one is definitely understanding your child. When you understand your child, you're able to love them better, you're able to connect with them better, and ultimately they have less stress and they're able to learn in an environment that is loving and understanding, and they can go forward and move forward with their learning without feeling stressed out. I hope you've enjoyed these 5 tips, the 5 keys for successful homeschooling, and I hope that you'll return and check out some of our free resources. Visit our blog at adoptioncounts.com/blog, and have a wonderful day.